Hello and welcome back to Animated Talk. Today I'd like to talk to you about A Boy Named Charlie Brown. It is the first of the Peanuts feature films released by the traditional Peanuts creators. That would be Chuck Schultz, but really most people know him as Charles Schultz. Bill Melendez, who was the primary animator and producer. You also have Lee Melendez, who was the executive producer, and you also have Vince Guaraldi, who is the traditional Peanuts musical score. Before, unfortunately, he passed away and he was replaced. By the way, if I seem a little out of breath, I was just running a little bit. I hate exercising. I really, really do. I'm getting older, though. You can see it in my gray here, and I got to do it. Anyway, I want to talk about this short, though, because I was watching it on YouTube recently, and when I was a kid, I always thought that it was a little slow. I thought that particular feature film seemed to drag a little bit. There wasn't also much of a story. It's basically just Charlie Brown just feeling like he's a loser, which happens in most Peanuts cartoons. And then he enters a spelling bee, and he does pretty well, gets to the finals, and then he loses, which... I mean, it's fine, but I never really thought of it as one of the more exciting Peanut specials. You have Snoopy Comes Home, which was a lot more entertaining, at least as a kid, because Snoopy is a funnier character and has bigger humor to him, him and his interactions with Woodstock. I also enjoyed Race for Your Life because Charlie Brown and his friends are racing each other up the river, and that was kind of cool. And then you have Bon Voyage Charlie Brown, where it takes place over in Europe, and there's all kinds of little adventures they have in Europe, which was kind of fun as a kid. So really, A Boy Named Charlie Brown was one that I kind of neglected, and I shouldn't have. Watching it now, yes, it is a little slower, and there isn't a ton of story, but it's very much a mood piece. It's kind of like a old-fashioned album, a real album where all the songs kind of came together for one central theme and one central purpose. The purpose of A Boy Named Charlie Brown was to talk about the fact that Charlie Brown, if you really get down to it, may feel like he's a loser, but really the fact that he is a thinker, a striver, and somebody who doesn't give up. He really is a winner. Now, this was talked about quite a bit in the more recent Peanuts movie, and it was done a little bit more with a sledgehammer to the audience, saying, boom, this is the message we want you to get. And that's fine. It was cute, and it was better than I anticipated. I really wasn't expecting much out of the Peanuts movie. Maybe I'll talk about that in another YouTube video. But when it comes to A Boy Named Charlie Brown, it's very much the same subject. Charlie Brown saying, I don't seem to be doing very well, and I seem to lose a lot. Is that okay? Am I a loser? Why do I always feel so bad? And the thing is, Charlie Brown... you never really get a firm, super solid answer of, yes, Charlie Brown, you're a winner. You don't get that big moment like you have in the Peanuts movie where Charlie Brown is told by the little red-haired girl that he's awesome. Charlie Brown in this, really at the end, still doesn't win. And he still doesn't feel as happy as he wants to. But I think there's some reality in that. The fact that a lot of the times... moving forward and being a winner means progressively trying again and trying and trying. And I do think it comes across in this particular short, but in a much more subtle way. And we don't always get to that ending where we have the big win. In fact, oftentimes we end up losing when we get to the big final competition. But the fact is that we are striving to move forward as people, or at least some of us are. It really makes it kind of a powerful story. And I think Charles Schultz did a much more subtle job than his family did now that he's gone making the Peanuts movie. No attack to the family. I think they still did a pretty decent job. But I think A Boy Named Charlie Brown was much more artful. It starts out with Charlie Brown just really looking at his faults, and then Lucy in excruciating detail showing him in slow motion just how bad he is at losing, really accentuates that kind of neuroses that's going on for Charlie Brown. However, it's interesting watching him and Lucy compare to each other, because Lucy likes to attack Charlie Brown, but if you look at it, she is just basically leeching off of him, and Charlie Brown trying to strive and be better is basically Lucy is taking advantage of him. Lucy really in and of herself is kind of a loser in herself, that she's not striving to be a better person. She doesn't care. And she's somebody that's just taking advantage of the weak. And that's how she gets her money from the whole psychiatry thing. When Charlie Brown decides that he's going to keep moving forward with the spelling bee thing, she tries to be his manager just to leech money off of him. And she makes it very clear that's what she's doing. All the other kids are making fun of Charlie Brown, but none of them are trying to step forward. And I think this cartoon does a very subtle job of talking about that. And it's really quite beautiful when you get to the end and Charlie Brown, he's a little bit deflated, but he's also done a big thing. And nobody recognizes how wonderful he is. But at the end of the day, he has gone much further than anybody else. So this cartoon takes him to the big city and back all by himself because he does it for himself. And I think this cartoon does a really nice job. I also really like the scene where Schroeder is playing music, and you see the kind of history of man, really starting more from like kind of medieval time, where you have the medieval church, and you see the kind of beginning of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, and then the Renaissance coming into modern times. And I think that was a very beautiful scene because it talks about the fact that a lot of us kind of start in a place where we're kind of murky and dark and things aren't going super well for us, kind of like the dark ages of medieval times, at least thematically here. And then you grow into a more full-fledged, beautiful version of society. I think that's what that particular scene was talking about. And it's a beautiful metaphor for Charlie Brown and his journey, going from a dark place to a place where, if you really think about it, he really is a winner here. So I think it's a beautiful little short. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say short. Feature film. It's definitely one of the most subtle, but it's also the most complex and artistically impressive of the Peanuts feature films, and I think people should give it a second chance. Looking online, and even people like Jerry Beck and stuff like that, people don't seem to really like this short, and they kind of rag on its slowness, but I think they should really look at the art and the subtlety behind what Charles Schulz and the whole Peanuts production staff were doing there. It was actually quite artfully done. Hopefully this whole discussion has started an animated discussion. Hopefully I started out this by saying welcome back to Animated Talk instead of Art Smart, because I've changed my tag. But anyway, this is Animated Talk, and please come back for continued videos about cartoons, art, and of course my own personal shorts. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.